It is recorded among the Eldar that in the Eldar days, before the sun and moon were set upon their courses, there were deeds of both great sorrow and enduring light. We turn now to a chronicle from that time, a history that is held by the wise to be the very heart of the tales of the First Age. This, then, is the tale of Beren and Lúthien.
Thus begins the account in the ancient scrolls. For amid all the weeping and the ruin of a long and terrible war, there was a light that endured, even under the shadow of death. And of all the histories that have come down to us through the long ages of the world, this is the one the elves themselves hold most dear.
Our telling of this chronicle shall unfold in 6 parts. We shall begin with the tale's deep roots in the world of its maker. We will then witness the fated meeting of the lovers, follow their quest into the deepest darkness, and stand with them before the Iron Crown. We will see a love proven stronger than death itself, and finally we will trace the enduring legacy of their union down through the ages.
Let us begin, for we must first understand that this tale is not as other tales. Its roots are set not only in the soil of Middle-earth, but in the very heart of its own maker, a story he did not merely invent, but one which, it might be said, he lived.
And herein lies the secret heart of the legend. On the one side, you have the elf maiden Lúthien Tinuviel, daughter of a king and a divine spirit, dancing in the twilight forests of Beleriand. And on the other, Edith Bratt, the beloved of a young scholar named John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, seen dancing for him in a clearing among the hemlocks in a wood in England. The myth and the memory, you see, are one.
And Tolkien himself affirmed this in his letters, though he did not use the name in life. In his heart, his wife Edith was the wellspring from which the tale arose. And so it is that upon their shared gravestone in Wilvercote Cemetery, below their names are carved 2 others, Beren and Lúthien. Thus is the personal tale transmuted into myth for the ages.
And so we turn to the chronicle proper. We journey now to the deep woods of the kingdom of Doriath, in the first age of the world, to a fated meeting in the forest of Neldreth, and to the pride of a mighty king that would set in motion a doom that would shake the very foundations of the world.
First we must speak of Beren, and you must understand he was no mere wanderer. He was of the house of Beor, the noblest of the Aedain, those men who first allied themselves with the elves. He was the son of Barhaihir, who saved the life of the elven king Finrod Felagund, and who carried the ring of Bahair as a token of an unbreakable oath. But his people were slain, his father murdered, and for 4 long years he wandered Dorthonion alone, a hunted outlaw with a great price upon his head.
And then there was Lúthien. She was truly unique in all the annals of Arda. Her father was Eleuthingol, a king of the elves who had himself seen the light of the 2 trees in Valinor. Her mother, Melian, was not of elven kind at all, but a Maya, one of the divine spirits who helped shape the world. Lúthien was the only child ever born of such a union, and in her flowed the light of the Eldar and the power of the Ainur. It is said she was the most beautiful of all the children of Iluvatar. Her chosen name was Tinuviel, the nightingale.
So when Beren, a mortal man, ragged and wayworn, came out of the wilderness and dared to ask for Lúthien's hand, the pride of King Thingol was stirred to a terrible wrath. He would have slain Beren on the spot, but instead he devised what he thought a crueler fate. He set a bride price he believed impossible to pay, a Silmaril, taken from the very crown of Morgoth, the Dark Lord. He intended it, you see, as a death sentence.
And what were these Silmarils? Well, they were nothing less than the greatest works of craft ever made. 3 jewels, fashioned by Fëanor of the Noldor, and within them was captured the living light of the 2 trees of Valinor, the light of the world before the sun and moon. But Morgoth had destroyed those trees and stolen the jewels, and now he wore them in his iron crown as a sign of his mastery. They were hallowed things, and their touch was torment to any unclean thing.
Thingol's demand was born not only of pride, but of a terrible folly, for he forgot the dreadful oath sworn by Fëanor and his 7 sons. They had vowed by the name of Iluvatar himself to pursue with unending hatred anyone, be they good or evil, who kept a Silmaril from them. In sending Beren after a Silmaril, Thingol was not only sending him against the Dark Lord, but was also invoking a curse that would eventually bring war and ruin upon his own kingdom.
Yet, Beren accepted the quest, and so began the great venture into darkness. And, as was foretold, ancient oaths both of friendship and of hatred were awoken and drawn into the doom of the 2 lovers.
Bearing the ring of his father, Beren went first to the hidden kingdom of Nargothrond to call upon King Finrod Felagund to fulfill his oath of aid. And though he knew it would lead to his own death,
Finrod was true to his word. With 10 companions, they set out, disguised as orcs. But they were captured by Sauron, then the chief lieutenant of Morgoth, and the lord of Tol and Garhoth, the Isle of Werewolves. Cast into a dark pit, they were slain one by one, until only Finrod and Beren remained. And there, in the darkness, the Elven King gave his life, wrestling a wolf with his bare hands, to save his friend.
For it is told in the Lay of Lúthien, the song of the release from bondage, that before their capture, Finrod and Sauron contended in a great duel of songs of power. Sauron's songs were of betrayal and despair, seeking to unmask them, and Finrod sang in answer songs of resistance and of the fair things of the West. But Sauron's power in that moment was the greater, and the Elven King was overcome.
Now when all hope seemed lost for Beren, the tale turns to Lúthien. For you must understand, she was not a damsel to be rescued, but a power in her own right. And her resolve to save her beloved would lead her on a quest of her own, a quest that would see her challenge the greatest servants of the enemy.
Her father Thingol, fearing for her, had her imprisoned in a great house built high in a tree. But Lúthien's power was of her mother Melian. She wove a cloak from her own enchanted hair and sang a song of sleep to escape her guards. On her journey north, she found a most unlikely ally, Huan, the great hound of Valinor, who forsook his cruel master to aid her. Together, they came to the Isle of Werewolves, and there, in a display of might that echoes through the ages, Lúthien's power overthrew Sauron himself, breaking his fortress and freeing the captives. And in the ruins, she found Beren, mourning the death of Finrod.
At last, together, they came to Angband, the very fortress of the enemy. And there, before the throne of Morgoth himself, Lúthien performed the greatest feat of the elder days. She sang a song of such power, of such enchantment, that it cast the Dark Lord and all his court into a deep slumber. The mightiest being in Middle-earth, the very source of all the world's evil, was laid low, not by force of arms, but by the song of an elf maiden. His terrible crown rolled from his head, and the Silmarils lay within Beren's reach.
Beren prized one Silmaril from the crown with his knife, but in his pride he reached for a second, and the knife blade snapped, striking Morgoth's cheek. The Dark Lord stirred and they fled, but pride went before a fall. As they fled the gate, their victory was undone by a peril they had not foreseen, a terror that would lead them to the very halls of the dead. For guarding the gate was Carcharoth, the greatest werewolf ever bred. He lunged, and Beren thrust the hollowed Silmaril before him. But the wolf was not deterred. It bit off Beren's hand at the wrist, swallowing hand and jewel together. The Silmaril, being holy, burned the wolf's innards, driving him to a great madness. He fled, howling, a living fire of torment rampaging south through the land.
Beren and Lúthien were rescued by the great eagles and returned to Doriath. There, the maddened Carcharoth also came, and a great hunt was set. In that hunt, Beren was mortally wounded defending King Thingol, but the wolf was slain, and the Silmaril recovered from its belly, still clasped in Beren's lifeless hand. Beren placed the jewel in Thingol's hand, declaring his quest complete, and with that, his spirit departed.
Yet the tale does not end here. Oh no, for Lúthien's grief was so great that her own spirit faded, and she followed Beren into the halls of Mandos, the doomsman of the Valar. There she sang a lament of such sorrow and beauty that Mandos, who had never before known pity, was moved. A choice was given her. She could dwell forever in the Undying Lands, but forget Beren. Or she could return with him to Middle-earth, but in doing so, she must accept the gift of men, mortality. She must forsake her elven immortality and share his final death. Lúthien chose mortality and love.
And so it was that alone of all the Eldar, Lúthien truly died and departed the circles of the world. But in her choice, a choice that fundamentally altered the very laws of creation, the two kindreds of elves and men were joined. And from their union came a hope and a lineage that would shape the destiny of all the ages to come.
You see, Beren and Lúthien returned to life for a time and had a son, Dior. From Dior came Elwing, who wed the mariner Yerendil. Their sons were Elros, the first king of Númenor, and Elrond, the master of Imladris, Rivendell. Through the long line of the kings of Númenor, through Elendil who escaped the downfall, and through the line of Isildur his son, the blood of Lúthien Tinuviel was passed down through the second and third ages, until at last it came to Aragorn, son of Arathorn, who would unite the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor and be crowned King Elisar.
And so, the ancient poem concludes. It holds that even if all of creation were to fail and fall back into nothingness, the making of the world would still have been worthwhile, for the sole reason that for a time Lúthien to Nouviel existed. And it leaves us to wonder at the power of a single story, of a single love, to justify all of creation, and to echo through all of time.